Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Kiger. Back here today with another top TV show list. As always, like I said, this is a part of a new series that I'm doing. I know it's not probably going to be the most interesting to some people, but I, I thought it would be nice to just go back and take a look at some of my favourite shows and movies. And today we're talking about animated shows. So anything that's animated. So there's a lot of cartoons on here, some adult animations. Straight off the bat, I just want to say that I have been watching shows like Rick and Morty, F is for Family. I did enjoy those shows. I really do enjoy those shows. But like I said, these favourites are shows that I've watched growing up. And we still go back and watch today, and stuff that I've seen multiple times, things that I would call my favourite. While I do enjoy, like I did enjoy F is for Family, and I did enjoy, Rick and Morty, and I am rewatching Rick and Morty. Like I said, I've only seen them once or twice all the way through, so there's still a lot more that I could go back and watch them again maybe one day, but chances are I probably won't. But with these shows that I'm talking about, these are shows that I would definitely go back and watch. And some of them I even have watched multiple times. So we're going to start off strong with The Simpsons. Kind of an obvious choice. I grew up watching The Simpsons every night. It used to be on at like 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock as a kid. I used to watch The Simpsons on Channel 4. Then it would be on Sky 1. I had the VHS tapes at my aunt's house. After school, I would always go to my aunt for a couple of hours, and I'd sit there and I'd have these VHS tapes of The Simpsons. Yes, I have had the DVD box sets, but the ones that I remember more were the VHS tapes. There were about 15 or so different VHS tapes of The Simpsons, and most of them had like 4 or 5 episodes on. And I remember I watched the whole VHS tape, growing up. And of course, The Simpsons nowadays is on Disney Plus, and I'm probably going to go back and watch all of The Simpsons on Disney Plus. I haven't seen the new season of Simpsons. I think I was like halfway through season 30 or 31, whichever the newest season is. I sort of stopped watching the new Simpsons after a long time ago. But I have seen a majority of the episodes. In fact, pretty much every episode up until the newest episodes. I think the episode that I was technically stopped watching on was called Mad About the Toy. I think was season 30 or 31, I think. So The Simpsons is always been a favourite of mine. Growing up, I just loved it. It's such a nostalgic cartoon for a lot of people. Most people have the similar thing. They watched it like in the 90s and stuff and early 2000s, and then they just stopped watching it after about like season 10 or something. There are great episodes of The Simpsons. There are some less great episodes, but The Simpsons has done it all. And a lot of people are saying, when is it going to end? I don't know if they'll ever end it anytime soon, but I can definitely see where people are starting to get a little bit like it's sort of outrun its show. A lot of people say that any show that has more than 5 seasons after a while will start to get a little bit stagnant. With cartoons, it's a bit different, because a cartoon can really be creative and sometimes break the boundaries and push boundaries, whereas a live action TV show gets a lot more heat if they do that. But The Simpsons has always been a great one of mine. There's so many great episodes. I was a big fan of the Treehouse of Horror ones growing up. Still am. So I might actually, after finish Rick and Morty, I might actually rewatch The Simpsons on Disney Plus. I might do it, 600 plus episodes. It will take me a while to get through them all, but it wouldn't be a bad one to go back and watch them. Up next, we have Family Guy. Yes, I am going to be honest with you. When I was in school, people used to talk about Family Guy all the time, and I never watched it. I didn't start watching Family Guy until I was about 16, 17. It's not because I weren't allowed to watch it. I think the first time I ever watched it was when I was on holiday with my brother, and we sat there and we watched it and we fell in love with it. I do have seasons 1 to 16, 17 on DVD, so I'm sure it's season 1 to 17 I have, or 16 or something. I haven't seen the newest seasons. It's always on TV. You know, Family Guy, I do have the box set again. It's a show that I've watched multiple times. I used to love watching Family Guy with my brother. It's just a show that sometimes I could put on in the background, and it's just such a funny show. You know, it basically, a lot of people compare it to The Simpsons, but I think The Simpsons is much more of a well-renowned show, whereas Family Guy just more relies on having jokes and things, and yes, it pushes boundaries. It's an adult animated show. What do you expect? But the Family Guy is always going to be a favourite of mine. As is South Park. South Park to me was a show that, again, I watched as a kid. I think I watched South Park more than Family Guy as a kid. And South Park, in my opinion, is probably one of the most like out there shows. You know, it really pushes the boundaries. I'm going to be honest with you, the newest seasons, I haven't watched the latest season 22 or 21. Season 22 it might be. But the newest seasons I felt like were a little bit like, I think it was season 19 or 20, the one with the whole troll trace program. It was nice that they were trying to keep a whole season to have like a similar storyline. But to me, what I loved about South Park is each episode was its own thing. Kind of like Family Guy, and they did the whole Family Guy joke episode. South Park has always been a show that just really pushes the boundaries. It has a lot of jokes in it, but it pushes the boundaries, and people get riled up because of it. And, you know, it's crazy, you know. I think it's because obviously they're kids as well. So, you know, they're dealing with a lot of adult situations as well. And that's the ongoing joke. My all-time favourite episode of South Park is the Warcraft episode, Make Love Not Warcraft. Such a nostalgic episode, such a well-done episode. You know, the whole episode is pretty much done in the Warcraft game. I don't know how they did that. You know, they might have done it with the actual Warcraft game, but I didn't really play Warcraft growing up. I haven't really played it properly, but I love that episode. Followed by my second favourite episode is the Ninja episode. Such a funny episode. South Park is just such a memorable show, and you do remember so much about it. I kind of cheated here, but I put Bojack Horseman on this list. Although I've just finished my second watch of it, I would put it on my favourite shows because of how powerful the show is. You know, Bojack Horseman, when you first look at it, you think, oh my god, it's just a show about anamorphic animals, and it's going to have some jokes here and there, and it's going to be stupid. And for the most part, the first few episodes are like that. But trust me, stay with Bojack Horseman because it gets very deep. You know, it deals with so many real life problems: mental health, drugs, alcoholism, you know, anxiety, depression, everything, man. It is such a well-respected show and so well done. You know, it does have a lot of jokes and a lot of crazy things happening in the background. You know, like there's animals, like, you know, you might see like two rams headbutt each other, or, you know, there's a lot of animal jokes in there to sort of try and give it a little bit of a joke feel to it. But it's a very serious show and gets some really, really dark stuff in there and does a great job. I was a little bit disappointed with the ending of Bojack Horseman without giving it away too much, but in a way it kind of made sense. What I loved about Bojack Horseman is he's the main character of the show, and you want him to do well, but he just makes so many big mistakes, and he's a character you love to hate and you hate to love, basically. And not many shows do that, take a chance on creating a main character and making him like the villain in a way, but he's also the hero. But it's such a well done show, and it's a show that I would love to do a full review on one day. So that's pretty much like the most of the adult animation stuff. So now we're going to be going into some more of the classic cartoons and children's cartoons. I didn't really include like early children's shows that I used to watch, like Four Ways Farm, Pingu, because they were like pre-childhood stuff, and they used to have them on Maggie and the Ferocious Beast, Max and Ruby, because those shows were normally on because I had a younger brother at the time who had those shows on, and obviously I sat there and watched them. But They wouldn't really class my favourite. I have nostalgia for them because obviously my brother used to watch them, but these are my personal ones. I couldn't include, I could not include Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is one of the longest running cartoons, with the exception of maybe some other like Disney cartoons and stuff. But Tom and Jerry is like the epiphany of what made a great cartoon. It was made in, you know, like the late 30s, early 40s, and you know, when I talk about Tom and Jerry, I'm talking about the original Tom and Jerry from like the 40s to the 70s. There are so many different versions of Tom and Jerry, and there's been so many great versions, new versions, boomerang versions. But for me, the original Tom and Jerry's were some of the best cartoons ever. You know, it was just a simple concept: a cat trying to get rid of a mouse, the mouse basically beating the hell out of the cat. It was violent. It had, you know, tobacco in there and cigarettes and things that obviously would never go in today's society. But watching the old Tom and Jerry cartoons is a nostalgia trip. It is a trip down history, and it's a show that everyone should watch at least once in their life because Tom and Jerry is so great. It's a show that doesn't have, you know, any talking. There are a few episodes where they talk, they have talking characters, but there are a few episodes actually that really delve into some pretty dark things. Like, sorry if this is a spoiler, but in the original Tom and Jerry series, Tom actually commits suicide, or it's implied that he commits suicide at the end of the show. It's the episode where he is talking about, you know, his girlfriend that he basically tried to impress, and you know, he basically signed away his life. He gave up all his money just to try and impress this girl, and she ends up with someone else. And he sat there on the railway lines, and obviously Jerry joined him at the end. And you know, I always thought that was pretty dark. As a kid, it never hit me, but when I watched it as an adult, I was like, oh my god, that is very dark, you know. And it made me think, you know, when they did the later Tom and Jerry episode, was that Tom and Jerry like the next Tom and Jerry? Like, were they like the children of Tom and Jerry, or did the owners get like a new cat and call it Tom and Jerry? Who knows, man? I don't know if you can ask the original people that did it. They're probably dead, but it was such an amazing show, and it relied a lot on just visual, and the music as well. It was all based on sound effects, music, and visual. There was no talking in it. And that's what made it so great. It was just a well-respected and well-done cartoon. Next, we have probably one of the wackiest and my most second favourite cartoon of all time, Ed, Edd and Eddy. I could not go anywhere without talking about Ed, Edd and Eddy. It is, in my opinion, it was a simple concept. Three guys who are friends that share similar names, Ed, Edd and Eddy. Obviously, Ed being the guy who is dumb and lovable. Double D, Ed, Double D being the smart guy who's, you know, frail and cowardly. And then Eddy, you know, the loudmouth, always trying to get the money. And basically, all they wanted to do was get money to buy jawbreakers, which were these huge jawbreakers. And it was a simple concept, but the show was so wacky. What I loved about it was just all of these crazy contraptions that they used to do, the scams. There were so many, you know, what was great about Ed and Eddy, it had a lot of side characters, but every character in the show fits the show. There's a whole theory about, you know, it's actually based in limbo because every character is from a different period of time and there's no parents around. Forget about all that, but Ed and Eddy was just such an amazing show. And it is one of my all-time favourite cartoons. The only problem I have with Ed and Eddy is they never released a full, complete box set with every single season, every single episode on DVD. There are a few episode DVDs out there, and there's like season 1 and 2, but I think there were like 5 seasons. When they went to school, that was a pretty fun series as well, but it's such an amazing show from Cartoon Network. There's talk about bringing it back. I would like to see a new Ed and Eddy, but I wouldn't like to see it in a new animation style. It was just had a great animation style to it as well, and it was really wacky. You know, you never really knew what they were going to be doing, and it broke the fourth wall a lot, and it was just such an amazing show. Next we have SpongeBob SquarePants. I can't not talk about SpongeBob SquarePants because you know, I was more Cartoon Network than Nickelodeon. In fact, there was only 2 Nickelodeon shows that I really watched, and I'll get to the other one soon. But SpongeBob SquarePants was just such an amazing show. You know, my brother actually watched it more than me, but I actually really enjoyed watching SpongeBob. Very funny show. You know, you can't not talk about SpongeBob SquarePants when talking about classic cartoons. It was just a dumb little kid show, but it does have some sort of adult themes going in there. You know, it always made me think, you know, SpongeBob's meant to be like this kid-like character, but he works a job pretty hard. So I don't really know how old SpongeBob is, and he's trying to learn his driving lessons. I think he's like 14, 15 or something like that. But he has his own house and everything. So it makes you think, how old is SpongeBob? That's a question for you guys. Another classic Cartoon Network show I used to love as a kid was Dexter's Lab. Yeah, Dexter's Laboratory was such a funny little show as a kid. It was basically about this kid who was like a boy genius, had this laboratory underneath his parents' house, you know, under the nose, and he had this annoying sister that always tried to ruin his life and ruin his experiments. I can't really talk too much about Dexter's Lab because it's been a while since I watched it, but I would love to go back and watch it. Cartoon Network, if you're listening, please make a streaming service with all of your Cartoon Network shows. Even team up with Nickelodeon and Boomerang, you know, make this awesome streaming service of classic cartoons. Or Disney, just buy Cartoon Network, one or the other. Next we have Powerpuff Girls. A lot of people might laugh at me for this, and I know they did do a new version of Powerpuff Girls, but I never watched that. I actually really liked Powerpuff Girls as a kid because, you know, as a kid, you know, being a boy kid, you didn't really, as a boy kid, you always had that whole thing, you know, girls are gross and I prefer boy shows and stuff like that. Obviously, nowadays you can't say shit like that, but I actually loved Powerpuff Girls as a kid. It was such a great show. It was about these 3 girls who were created in a lab and they have superpowers. And I'm going to be honest with you, as much as I love Marvel and DC and all of this now, I never watched any superhero shows as a kid, cartoons. I don't know why, but Powerpuff Girls was like the only one that I classed as a superhero show. There's a lot of talk about, you know, the professor from Powerpuff Girls is actually Samurai Jack. That's an interesting theory because of the original opening. It's very similar town, or it's like an alternative universe. I like to think a lot of Cartoon Network shows are from alternative universes and stuff like that, but forget about the theories. The show is the show. And the second Nickelodeon show that I watched, I've got my list there, so I'm just double checking. The second Nickelodeon show that I used to watch was Fairy Odd Parents. It was basically about this guy called Timmy, and he had these little fairies that would grant wishes for him, and he obviously got into all of these crazy worlds and things like that. There was a guy in there called Jurgen von Strangle who was like the master fairy, and I don't know if it was voiced by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he certainly sounded like he was like, "Hey, look at my muscles, look at them." He was always doing that, and I thought it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It might be, I'll have to look it up, but it was such a funny show. Of course, it dealt with, another thing it dealt with was obviously being a kid, going to school, doing all of these things. There was obviously some side stories with the dad, you know, and Dinkelberg, I think that's his name. It's been a while since I watched it, but I love Fairly Odd Parents. I sort of tuned out when they added the baby Poof in there. I didn't really watch many of the episodes with Poof, but the original episodes I loved. I think they did bring it back. I know they did a live action film with Drake Bell from Drake and Josh in there as well, and I know Fairy Odd Parents did a few crossover episodes with like Jimmy Neutron and stuff. So yeah, you know, I really enjoyed Fairy Odd Parents. Next we have a couple of Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I'm going to be honest with you, Hanna-Barbera was a little bit before my time, so any of these old shows I used to watch if they were on TV, or if I had VHS tapes of them, because this was before DVDs were a big thing. And we have Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy. Hong Kong Phooey, I loved Hong Kong Phooey as a kid. You know, I didn't watch it when it was first around. In fact, I came across it by chance, just on a video. And when I watched the video, I fell in love with Hong Kong Phooey. It was basically about this dog who works as like a janitor, and he basically is this like kung fu master. But obviously he goes off and like tries to do things and be this like superhero, but it's actually his cat, the cat sidekick, that actually does all of the things for him. He's kind of really clumsy, but then he comes away acting like he'd done it all and stuff. It was a really wacky show, and a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons were over the top and wacky, and that's what I loved about Hanna-Barbera. I didn't really watch Scooby-Doo, so sorry there's no Scooby-Doos on here. Wacky Races. I loved Wacky Races. I remember the South Park episode about that as well. It's funny. Wacky Races was such a funny show, you know. It was part of another series called Catch the Pigeon, I think, and Dastardly and Muttley. But Wacky Races was just a fun show. It was basically about all of these over-the-top like cars and crazy drivers. And there were a few games as well, Wacky Races. But it was just such a funny show, you know. It was a simple concept. They had a race, and obviously Dastardly and Muttley would always try to sabotage the race. The old double O Dastardly and Muttley. And there was a lot of you know, memorable characters in there. The Cavemen Brothers, the Mob Team. I can't remember their names. It's been a while, but you know, the Mob, the Addams Family-esque team. But it was such a great show. I loved Wacky Races. So funny. And still a classic cartoon. I did include one superhero show on here, and that is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I haven't watched the Avengers Assemble show, even though it's on Disney Plus. I do want to watch that. But Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I really enjoyed Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I think I originally watched it on Netflix years ago when it was on Netflix, and then I rewatched it on DVD. I really liked Earth's Mightiest Heroes because it was that fine time where it was before Marvel sort of went off into this crazy experimental world that there is now with all the multiverses and the Inhumans. It was quite a basic show. It focused on the Avengers, you know, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and then obviously included some later characters, Ant-Man, Wasp, Black Panther, and a few others. But I really enjoyed Earth's Mightiest Heroes. You know, the first season was based on, I think, I can't remember who the villain was. I know Thanos wasn't in this. This was pre-Infinity War stuff. So it was a really good show, and I really enjoyed it. It was just a fun show that really had some great scenes in it. You know, it had some, obviously, the Kree and stuff like that. In fact, it did take a lot. I feel like some of the episodes, the movies took from some of the episodes as well. But it was a great show. It was a really great show. I do want to watch the Avengers Assemble show. And then the last two I have here is the Mr. Bean animated show. Yeah, everyone knows Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean, but did you know he did an animated TV show that I think is still going on today? I was amazed at how many seasons there were. You know, there were so many. But as a kid, I used to love watching the Mr. Bean animated show. What was great about the Mr. Bean animated show is the original Mr. Bean was based on a lot of visual stuff, and I love that, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. But the animated show really took some chances, and obviously he did some crazy stuff, and it was still very Mr. Bean-esque. You know, he had Teddy and Teddy, and you know, it'd be basic things like he'd go to the park or he'd try to relax in his house and something's always stopping him. What was also funny was in this show he actually, because in the live action show you didn't really see anything else. It was focused on him, whereas in this show it actually had a lot of like reoccurring characters, like the old lady that lived underneath him, and the cat, and the really big guys, and the you know, the burglars and stuff like that. And it was a funny show. My favourite episode was the piano episode where he's trying to learn how to play the piano and then he can't do it and he starts whacking the floor with the stool. That always made me laugh. I think there are some episodes on Amazon Prime, so I will have to go back and watch it. But it was just a fun little cartoon that I was very surprised that actually really took a lot from the live action show and expanded on it, because it had, you know, talking and stuff in it, and being English, it was a very English show based in London as well. Loved it. And last but not least, I saved one of the best for last. Dun 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 dun. Looney Tunes. How can I not include Looney Tunes? One of my all-time favourite movies is Space Jam. And Looney Tunes is one of the best cartoons of all time. If you never watched, I've got a Sylvester tattoo. That just goes to show how much I love Looney Tunes, you know. I love Looney Tunes, you know, Bugs Bunny, yeah, what's up, Doc? You know, Daffy Duck, Marvin the Martian, you know, blimmin', Tasmanian Devil, Sylvester, Tweety Pie, the chicken, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, you know, Yosemite Sam. It is the embodiment of a cartoon. Wacky, over the top, crazy, mad stuff. I know that the new seasons of Looney Tunes have taken out the guns and stuff, but who cares? You know what? I don't care about all that. It was violent, it was wacky, it was a cartoon, get over it. It was funny, and it basically took, obviously, it started off in, like, I think late 30s, maybe even 20s. I think it was before Disney, even pre-Disney cartoons. Could be wrong, but it's such an amazing show. I want to get the complete box set with all the original Looney Tunes and the gold edition. I love Looney Tunes. It is so amazing. It is one of the best cartoons of all time. I don't think anyone can argue that Looney Tunes is a classic. There's so many versions of Looney Tunes. What was great about Looney Tunes is each individual character went off and got spin-offs, got their own shows, got their own episodes. It was never just about Bugs Bunny, you know, it had hundreds of characters in there and they each got their own episodes. And Looney Tunes, in my opinion, could possibly be the best cartoon of all time, because it basically took what was amazing about cartoons and expanded on it. And if it weren't for Looney Tunes, I don't think a lot of cartoons would exist today. Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, in my opinion, are the two top cartoons of all time. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. Let me know some of your favourite animated shows. Adult, cartoons, children's shows, whatever. Don't be saying Peppa Pig or anything, because you can go kill yourself if you do. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. And of course, guys, feel free to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's try that again. Subscribe if you haven't already and join the family. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Mad Kiger, and on Twitch. I will be streaming tonight at 7 PM British Standard Time, and I should be doing Saints Row 2. It's free now on the Xbox, so if you have Xbox Live Gold, download Saints Row 2 for free. I am doing a replay of Saints Row 2 again. And me and my friend are going to be recording it, so if you're not there for live, it will be uploaded on YouTube. I just need to make sure I don't have any music playing in it when I do upload it to YouTube, so I will mess around with that. Full co-op playthrough. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Saints Row 2 is my all-time favourite Saints Row game. It's such a funny game. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun. Hopefully my friend don't disappoint me and come on too late. I'll keep until he comes on. And as always, guys, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.